Hello, I'm David Schilling, and for my archetype, I picked Ouroboros. So yeah, here we go. So, well, what is an Ouroboros? An Ouroboros is a snake or some other type of creature that is eating its own tail. In different cultures, they may be using, there may be other creatures, so anything from snake, dragon, serpent, almost anything almost, as long as it's eating its own tail, is what's known as an Ouroboros. And it, it's seen in, or it's been seen in a number of different cultures, such as, but I'm going to cover the beliefs or kind of how four different ones seen it. So Greek, Egyptian, Chinese, and kind of the modern day interpretations. Although it was also seen in places like India and Africa as well. I'm going to just cover these four. So the Greek interpretation also has some amount to do with alchemy, which was kind of present at the time. So in this meaning, it kind of represents death and rebirth, creation, destruction, kind of the inevitability of life, of this, like the cycle. And the way that ties into alchemy is a lot of people, or a lot of alchemists at this time, were kind of trying to escape that cycle and either figure out how to live forever or something like that. So next, in Egyptian, it was seen some, and it had to do with unity, eternal life, and the beginning/end of time. This is important, or like the reason this ties in is Egyptians had a lot to do with like the sun god Ra, and Ra is kind of represents the day, and as Ra came as the day, a serpent would come as the night, and so that kind of represents the cyclical beginning and end, and yeah. For the Chinese interpretation, the one main thing about the Chinese interpretation was instead of using snakes, it was often seen as like the main thing was dragons. So dragons typically represented power, luck, and unity, and the other main comparison or thing that the Ouroboros was related to, as seen here, was the yin yang, and that isn't because their meanings are entirely the same. However, they share the idea of the whole, how there's the good and the bad of the whole. In the yin yang, that's represented as the light and the dark, whereas in an Ouroboros, it's the creation and destruction. Moving on into kind of the modern interpretation, you see a lot of people interpreting it as like just the cycle of infinity and something that's cyclical, repetition, something that goes on and on. And you see it a lot in iteration, and you see it some in computer science these days, or in other algorithms that are recursive, which just means it calls itself and repeats. So that's kind of what it's seen more currently. So like I said, in most cultures, it's something along those lines, mainly the repeatability, inevitability, some sort of cycle, or some sort of greater whole, such as unity, or just, yeah. And here are my citations, and thank you very much for watching my video. Hope you learned something.